Thank you for calling Hail Mary Hotline. This is Bridget. Please hold while I transfer you.
Welcome back to Hail Mary Hotline. I'm your host, Taylor.
I'm your host, Sarah.
Buckle up. This is going to be a fun week.
We have had a lot going on this weekend, and I think formally there's no better way to start this episode than a big, fat, horns down.
But there was probably a good 2 or 3 hours of discussion before we even got to record, so...
This is our favorite Sunday debrief every single week.
Yes, it is.
When both of us finally make it back to school and we get to sit and talk about all the football that happened this weekend, start pulling up all of our stat pages and really kind of dive into our initial reactions before we come in front of all of you and kind of give you our summaries.
And there was a lot of that yesterday.
Yeah.
That was fun. But we're going to start off strong. We have a lot to talk about this week, but... So Saturday snapshots, probably the biggest, well, I don't know the biggest, but one of the major storylines of the weekend. South Carolina at Texas A&M. A&M won 31-30, but if you tuned into that game at any point during the first half, you would have thought that Carolina would have blown this game away.
We almost had to kick a 15-year-old out of my house because I came downstairs and my brother's like, Sarah, come to the, you gotta come watch. It's 10-3, and I was like, oh, so A&M is up, and he was like, no, it's 10-3, and then my brother's friend goes, yeah, what if they dink this field goal and they don't make it, and then A&M dinked the field goal and they didn't make it, so I almost had to kick him out of our kitchen, but A&M, by some grace of God, had one of the biggest comebacks in football history, definitely in school history, from a 27-point deficit.
Since 2004, prior to this game, teams were 0-286 when trailing by 27 or more points. So make that 1-286 now. But
yeah,
what a game! 28 unanswered in the second half, and Marcel Reed threw for 303 passing yards just in the second half.
This was 20 minutes of our 2-hour talk yesterday alone, just on 303 yards in the second half. 303 yards is a good game for any quarterback if you're looking at all 4 quarters. But for the second half alone, goodness gracious, Heisman watch list.
I know! That's 303 yards is sometimes a good game for an offense in general for a whole game, and he had that in one half.
Mm-hmm.
And what else is there to say about this game? It's a tale of two halves. Carolina came out and dominated the first half, and then I don't even know what happened. I guess they got up so big and just figured that they had it in the bag, but no, they didn't.
There's no words. I'm just so beyond impressed by A&M's comeback, also in a little bit of shock because they came out so horribly. I mean, with turnovers and interceptions, and speaking of interceptions, the one South Carolina player that kind of started walking off into what looked like to be the locker room, and state trooper that yelled at him.
That was so funny.
And got fired, by the way, for those who haven't been watching.
Yeah. But that was really funny.
But it was really funny. Yeah, this game was something else for the script writers.
Yes, it was. And my dad brought up a really good point. We were watching this in downtown, and he said this is the kind of game that Carolina wins and A&M loses, but this is also the kind of game that Carolina chokes. And there you go.
Yeah. I think A&M choked.
That they did. Long story short, well done A&M. Credit where credit is due. What a game.
Yep, Giga Maggies.
Yeah. Moving on, Georgia Tech at Boston College. Boston College had it. Tech won 36-34, and Boston College led 28-17 at the end of the third.
This was a really high-yard game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of movement on this field, and the stat sheet speaks for itself. I mean, Georgia Tech 628 total offensive yards, and Boston College still put up 537.
Yeah. That's a lot of yards.
Over 1,000 offensive yards from this game.
Mm-hmm.
Haynes King, I think, is still a Georgia Tech. He's your guy at the end of the day, and definitely deserves all of the credit that he's getting.
Absolutely. I mean, 15 for 53 rushing. He was 26 for 34 on passing, 76.5% completion for 371 yards, averaging 10.9 per attempt.
That's a great number.
Yes, it is. And I also want to point out Malachi Hosley from Georgia Tech, 15 carries for 107 yards and 3 receives for 47 yards. Like, what?
And then you turn around and you have Turbo Richard from Boston College, who had 11 carries for 141 yards.
Yeah.
So I think that this game made a lot of people's seasons. Definitely.
Yeah.
Regardless of the outcome, very competitive. And I think a big turn in the right direction for Georgia Tech after everything that happened with NC State. I think
Absolutely.
people just kind of writ off a lot of their season after that, which, fair enough.
Fair.
I was one of them. I'm not a Tech apologizer. I'm a certified Tech hater, as any Georgia fan is. But, I mean, still, you can't discredit their whole season, especially when they pull out games like this.
I know. And shout out Bedwards, who showed me Brent Key's post-game interview all of like 2 hours ago. But the reporter went up and asked him after the game, said, like, how do you feel having won this game? And he pretty much just said, we won the game. And that's like all he said. He was like, what do you want me to say? We didn't play well. We won. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was funny. It just... Yeah. But Tech's going to be in a world of hurt without Haynes King next year. Because he is a lot of their team right now. I
don't know how they're going to make up without him.
I really don't either.
Kind of the same way that Reed has been a lot of, or Mateer, sorry, wrong quarterback. That Mateer has been
a lot of Oklahoma.
A lot of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't do well, Oklahoma does not do very well.
No, they don't.
But more on Oklahoma in a little bit. Moving on, Florida versus Ole Miss, 34-24 Ole Miss. You can't lose to your future employer.
No, you can't.
It's a little embarrassing.
I mean, Ole Miss played a big offensive game, but they still kind of had a struggle win. They were down for a lot of that game. Mm-hmm. Florida came out ready, and I think a lot of that has to do with all of the rumors surrounding Kiffin right now. Lanesville, Florida.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people out for Kiffin right now when it comes to the coaching carousel, and Kiffin is staying very vague about it.
NFL included. I've seen some rumors that the Giants are interested in Kiffin, which...
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm more on this later, but I'm very interested to see where he ends up. And then, moving on, not much to say about this one, but, Missouri beat Mississippi State 49-27, as Mizzou does, as Mississippi State does. I'm so sorry, other Bulldogs.
It's an SEC matchup. It gets on the board.
It does, and now, this one is so much fun. 23-21 Oklahoma. I really thought that Bama was going to drive down the field and kick a field goal to win at the end of that game. Bama had no business losing this game. Oklahoma only had 212 yards of offense, and Bama had 406. You look at the stat sheet for this game, there is absolutely no way Oklahoma should have won.
Well, when Bama's serving 3 turnovers for dessert, it really looks like a different story. Should have been like 4 or 5, the way that their offense was playing.
Yes!
And I don't think anybody quite understands the way Taylor and I and another one of my friends from UGA were all crowding this TV, all looking at each other and being like, okay, well, never, ever want Bama to win. Because Bama has to lose.
They do.
But Georgia has to stay out of the SEC championship.
So, morally, I cannot root for Alabama. But legally...
Georgia has to stay out of the SEC championship. And just the 15 minutes of utter turmoil and back and forth of, well, obviously Bama has to lose because it's the right thing to do, but also Georgia has to stay out of the SEC championship.
I would also like to shout out Dakota for telling me that Ty Simpson, every time that the camera zooms in on him, it looks like he's about to burst into tears. And I think he might have at the end of this game. But I just thank you for that. I can never unsee it.
DeBoer definitely did.
Oh, he definitely did. Black hoodie is going in the shredder after this game.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to keep talking about kind of the difference between these two teams a little bit more. Bama had 23 first downs. Oklahoma only had 12. And Ty Simpson had 326 passing yards. Mateer had 138. And this was a terrible rush game both ways. Oklahoma only had 74 yards. Bama had 80.
This was not the Alabama team that ran up on Georgia.
No.
This is not the Alabama team that I've seen for 2 or 3 weeks. This is the Alabama team that played FSU.
It is.
Which is embarrassing.
I kind of like it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I do too. Because now that strength of record and, how you're winning games is taken into account, thank goodness this Alabama is not being graded like the Alabama that played us.
Yes.
on the flip side, this is also not quite the Oklahoma that has been playing the past 2 weeks.
No, they looked a little bit better. Their offense still, I think, has a lot to work on. They are definitely a defensive team.
Oh, yeah.
I think evidenced by Eli Bowen, 87-yard pick six. We went nuts at the tailgate when that happened. That was beautiful. But it just, I know we brought up that picture a couple weeks ago of like where all the teams are on that grid, but Oklahoma is such a defensive team, especially after Mateer got hurt. So for them to be able to kind of rely on their defense and to scrounge up enough points to actually win this game, I think is very impressive.
Defense wins championships is kind of the motto of college football, and Oklahoma is evidence of that, if nothing else. Because I think especially with Mateer's injury, like his throwing hand.
Yes.
He went under that surgery and he came back 2 weeks later, which honestly would not have been my first choice, but I don't think they have anybody else that could have gone in.
I know.
And I think that this week he looks like he was playing a little bit stronger, not necessarily cleaner or quite up to par, but I think he's starting to get his feet back under him a little bit.
I think so too. And I mean, Oklahoma's defense is averaging 278 yards per game. They did give up 406, but still, they also sacked Simpson 4 times. Would like to point that out.
Good on them.
Yes. And I just want to say, Bama should fear the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I think we should.
So anybody who is longtime fans of the Iron Bowl and knows the year 2014 with any bells knows that, Joey Heron at night is haunted and a certain kick six should ring lots of bells for longtime college football fans. Which, for those who don't know, in 2014, Alabama went to Auburn and tried to kick a field goal to win, but an Auburn player caught it before it could go up and ran all the way back for a touchdown.
Yep.
And it was one of the greatest days in college football.
Arguably the greatest play in college football history. Like, it still pops up on my Instagram, and every time it does, I watch it all the way through. But, this is, Alabama's kind of in a win-or-go-home situation here, because if they win out, then they're in the SEC championship, and they have a really good chance to still make the playoff, and they may not get a team that they wanted, but, don't lose to Oklahoma, and you get an easier road to the playoff. But they're putting their playoff hopes on beating Auburn in the Plains at night. And if I'm Alabama, that's not a place I want to be, because weird things happen at Jordan-Hare at night.
And Saban will tell you, which personally I'm very excited to see Saban's speech on game day next week.
Do we think game day goes to this game?
Wouldn't that be funny? I don't think you could pay Saban enough to be there.
No, I don't think you could either. But yes, I'm very interested.
We'll see. Weird things happen. All I know is that if Auburn wins, Bama doesn't go to the playoffs, and that is a good life for me.
Yes, it is. And then our last kind of big game of the weekend that we're going to talk about, Notre Dame and Pitt. Notre Dame won 37-15, and it was 0-0 for a while, and then Notre Dame scored 2 touchdowns in less than 1 minute.
This was Notre Dame's make or break game. If they didn't beat Pitt, they would be out of playoff contention, which
Absolutely.
I'm not entirely complaining about, because Notre Dame needs to get a conference before they can be allowed back in the playoffs, is my personal take and opinion.
You don't play anybody, you don't beat anybody.
So,
but I digress.
Do with that what you will. We are not the committee. Top 3 lines used on this show.
Yes.
But that was a big point on game day. Who was at this game, and Pat McAfee was back home. But Notre Dame had to win this game, and I think they definitely knew that going in, because 37-15 is a good game on anybody's record.
And it really wasn't even as close as the score. Like, anytime you turned to this game, it was pretty much a beatdown. And those 2 touchdowns, Love had a 56-yard run, and then Johnson had a 49-yard pick six within that 1 minute. And that pretty much told you how the game was going to go.
And that's just how Love runs. I think what we watched him through the playoffs last year, this is just kind of what he does. So it's, not always a big fan of Notre Dame, but Love has been one of my favorite players to watch whenever we do kind of turn them on. So.
Yeah.
Moving on to our not so brief, but Bulldog brief segment of the show, what we are all here for. And once again, just to really rub it in, horns down.
Always and forever. But Georgia won 35-10. And before we get into kind of the nitty-gritty of this game, I just want to take a second to say, we weren't down at half, and there was honestly not much of this game at all, where I kind of looked at the field and thought, I don't know if we're going to win this game. Which, as a Georgia fan, is a weird place to be.
And as Taylor and I are usually at all of these games, we sit on opposite sides of the stadium. And at every single game without fail, usually by during halftime, we're freaking out, texting each other like, hey, did you see blah, blah, blah? Like, so-and-so is out. Like, did you see what this call was? And we were silent for the entire game.
It was radio silence. That's when you know that it's weird.
Yeah. We, like, did not talk to each other once through this whole game, which is never something that happens. Even if one of us is there and the other isn't, we talk through the entire game. Not a word.
No, you texted me when Bama lost.
Yes.
But that was it. That was it.
Not about Georgia.
No.
It's the big thing.
Yeah. But yes. So anyway, there's a lot to unpack here today, but I want to start off strong.
I do too.
Onside kick.
250 practices. Oh my gosh. Kirby Smart got into his press conference, and the onside kick was, thank goodness, the first thing they asked him about. And he said he must have practiced it 250 times with Cash Jones, and Cash Jones was asking about it all game long.
Like, when are we going to run it? When are we going to run it?
We were up by 11 when we did that onside kick. No business. Just,
because we can.
Being a jerk about it, which, hilarious, by the way. But we made it.
And first successful onside kick by a UGA team since 2013 South Carolina. And I think Kirby said it best in his press conference, is like, when you do that and you recover that onside kick, you suffocate the other team. And that is exactly what happened, because we were struggling to run on Texas all night because their defensive line is honestly really good. And as soon as we recovered that kick, you could just see them deflate, and they gave up, and we started running all over them.
And Texas practiced for us to do an onside kick. Yes, they did. Which is the other really funny part, because Cash Jones ripped through two defenders to run for, 8 more yards before he, just kind of dove?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 8 to maybe 11 more yards after he busted through two defenders and just slid in. Just decided to take it where it was, get the really good field position. Honestly, I think he could have run it to the 15 if he wanted to.
I think he could have, but I think that was a good decision because we ran so much more time off that clock.
Definitely.
It was absolutely the right decision. And I saw somewhere too, somebody asked KJ Bolden about it and was like, well, what did you think? And he said, oh, I thought Kirby was kidding. That's not something you do when you're up like that, but it could not have been executed more perfectly. And it gave... UGA had the ball for 11 minutes and 28 seconds consecutively. Texas did not touch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, one of the most incredible strings of offensive play that I have ever seen in my years as a football fan.
Yes.
Because that fourth quarter, we kicked off with London Humphrey's 30-yard pass and score, which was incredible. I think we saw a lot more of Humphreys this game, and it was good to see London, back in the end zone. And then we had the onside kick, and then, of course, back in the game, Lawson Lucky 6-yard pass from Stockton.
It made me so happy to see him on the field, because I was really worried after last week, but it's not quite the same when he's not out there, and I'm glad that he did get a touchdown reception, especially after getting hit so hard last week.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk a little bit about our running game. We ended up putting up 128 rushing yards, and 72 of those were from Frazier.
Yeah, which Frazier ran for most of this game. He looked really beat up by the fourth quarter, so that's where I think one of my biggest things this week, much more than, our usual play calling, wide receiver screens, Bobo get out of the box, whatever, the drill. Just, I think some personnel changes. I think that we really could have switched Frazier out a few times.
I think so too.
Bowens also took a really bad hit though, so I think that we didn't have a ton to work with. But even to see McCray on 2 or 3 more of those just dirty yard runs to get the next down would have, I think, given him a much needed break. But he was definitely a team player this week, and he did everything that he was supposed to do, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And there were definitely... As usual, there were a few times where I looked up at the box and said, what are you doing? Especially after we had 3 or 4 straight drives, I think, where we ran it straight up the middle, 3 and out. And that's kind of when I sat there and thought, new week, same old Bobo. But credit where credit is due. He called an excellent game other than those few drives.
Yeah, he did.
So, well done. And then Bowens had 8 carries for 19 yards. Stockton had 6 carries for 29 yards and a rushing touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a game. And then Branch had 6 receptions for 41 yards. Thomas 4 for 32 yards. Like, we had a lot of offensive players step up big this week, and it showed.
Our running game has definitely improved in the last 2 weeks. Our defense also woke up this week.
Oh my
Stockton,
goodness.
while we're on offense, had one of his most efficient games. 24 for 29. He went 82.8%, 229 yards, averaged 9.1 adjusted yards. So, which is a crazy number.
It is.
Especially when Stockton's been rocking like 70 to 74% all season, even with 5 incompletions. 4 touchdowns. Only 1 interception, which I found out on Sunday during our little debrief. 1 of 3 this season.
Yep, 3 all season.
From him.
Carson Beck has more in one game than Gunnar Stockton has all season. And I would also like to point out, Stockton is leading the SEC in completion percentage.
As he should after this game especially. But with that, like, 187.7 efficiency rating, which, oh my gosh, is he not one of our most efficient quarterbacks in a while?
Yeah. Why don't you read the other quarterbacks' numbers real quick?
With pleasure. Arch Manning, 27 for 43, 62.8%. More yards, 251 yards, but only 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Averaged 5.3 adjusted yards.
If you had your Warby Parkers on, maybe you could have seen the beatdown coming.
That was one of my favorite memes that you sent me all weekend, but I think the one that takes the cake is, if nobody saw it, oh my gosh, I pray that it finds you after you listen to this, is the Archie man who microwaves his barbecue.
That's one of the most insulting things I've ever seen.
Especially for a Texas man. Goodness gracious, coming for his soul right there.
I've seen so many, like, our Arch is better than yours, our Arch isn't a Nepo baby. Like, there's so many good ones out there right now.
But still, wanted to definitely give credit to Stockton where credit is due. He also had our last touchdown of the game, which I think is really special.
He was fired up, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, to jog everybody's memory, this is Stockton's second time playing Texas.
It is. You are correct.
Recently.
Yes.
His CFB debut with Georgia was second half of our SEC championship with Texas last year.
Mm-hmm.
And
he won that game too.
He stepped on that field. Stockton has been my quarterback, and I've been his biggest advocate on the show. So
he also owns Texas.
He does also own Texas.
So, but anyway, I also want to point out, Georgia is such a physical team, and I don't think that has ever been more evident than this past weekend. Because it was, Texas gets in your face a little bit, but they're not clean. Mm-hmm. Evidenced by their 9 penalties for 58 yards.
Yeah.
But Georgia is such a physical team. They will make the dirty plays. They will get you on the ground, whatever it takes. And I've definitely had issues with our tackling the past few games, but I was very, very impressed by our defense this weekend. They showed up pretty much the entire game, which is not something that we've done lately.
Yeah, and I think a really important point and something about Georgia is, we've lived the high life. We've had every blue chip in the book on our defense before, and it's paid off and won, and they're all phenomenal players in the NFL right now. If the Eagles pipeline has taught anybody anything. But this year, I think our defense, while it doesn't have the names that we are used to in the past or that everybody else's defenses might have, we play like we do.
Yes, we do.
So while we might not have all the blue chips in the room that everybody necessarily, like, on paper really cares about, they play like they're the best team ever.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly is the mindset and the physicality that I think makes Georgia so different, is because regardless of who you are, like, Kirby demands physicality.
That he does.
And even if we miss tackles, if we aren't the best at pressuring the quarterback, and I'm looking straight into the camera because we aren't, and we do miss tackles, we do look a little lost in space, our defense is definitely having a rougher year.
Yes.
Like, all of that put aside, this still is not, like, the most awful defense that we've ever played.
Oh, absolutely not. And I saw some brighter spots this weekend. We definitely put a lot more pressure on the quarterback. I mean, we got 3 sacks. I feel like that's more than we've had in a game all season. I don't know that off the top of my head. But we had 7 tackles for loss, and we had an interception. That's not really been Georgia's MO this year, is not the put all the pressure on the quarterback. We're going to sack him, like, 8, 9 times and turned the ball over so many times. That's just not been who we are as a team this season. So it was nice to see a little bit more pressure and a little bit more of the plays being made. Mm-hmm. So I think if we continue in that direction, we're going to be okay. But it's also assuming our defense shows up for the whole game, which sometimes they don't.
Yeah, but, I mean, we broke up more passes in the third quarter than I think I've seen in most of our games all season, which was another really, promising thing. And with that being said, we did only have one penalty. So.
Yep, for 15 yards.
But only one penalty.
No, I know.
So,
that's not
with
bad.
them being that physical, that also shows just how clean our defense played this week.
Absolutely.
Which honestly kind of makes up for it. Because if they're going to drop in some, we are clean.
Yes.
Which helps because we're not losing 100 yards on penalties like a lot of SEC teams are this season.
Yeah.
So.
And Texas always has high penalty numbers like that. I feel like every week that I look at them, it's 7, 8, 9 penalties for sometimes triple-digit yards. That's not good. That's an undisciplined team.
That's how we started this season talking about Texas.
Yes, it is.
When we were doing some of our more, broad SEC reviews, it was talking about Texas and their triple-digit penalties. We've talked about just undisciplined.
Yeah.
It just looks sloppy. It looks lazy when you have that many penalties for that many yards.
It absolutely does. And I also want to point out while we're talking about our defense, CJ Allen did go down before halftime. Right now, they've said that he's week to week. He's supposed to get an MRI sometime this week. But for now, kind of like we said last week, no news is good news. Lord knows we don't need him this weekend for Charlotte. But still, I would like to have him back for Tech. And if, God forbid, if we make it to the SEC championship, we are going to need him.
Yeah, Bowens too, which luckily we have not heard anything about yet, but I'm really hoping and praying that we don't see him on an availability report come Thursday. So
yeah, I hope not. Again, we don't really need him this weekend, but
so I'm glad that we have this kind of break. But historically, Georgia does not do well having a break between games before big opponents, for God knows why. So
yeah. I like having Charlotte this week instead of a bye week. I would have it that way every week, but I get why they don't do that. But still, it gives kind of some backups a chance to play, kind of see the field, understand how things work a little bit, maybe try some new plays out that you can't necessarily run against the bigger teams. So it may be an ugly win because nobody's going to want to be there, but it'll be a win nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. I do want to talk about a little bit more about Georgia before we move on to Texas. I've seen a lot of chatter about Stockton needs to be in the Heisman conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to read his stats versus currently ranked opponents. 86 for 111, 952 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then he has 34 carries for 148 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I think the yards is what makes the biggest difference.
I agree.
And we had a really big conversation about this on Sunday because I've seen a lot of talk, obviously you have your Indianas and your Ohio States of the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of the top of the Heisman conversation right now. I'll throw Marcel Reed up there because what he's done at A&M, I think the past week alone is enough to prove that he deserves to be up there. But I think that the big problem when it comes to Ohio's, like Sayin and Mendoza, is that yes, they're winning all their games, but they don't have the yards that the SEC quarterbacks have.
No, because they don't have to. They don't play anybody. And Georgia has as many wins right now against currently ranked teams as Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon combined.
Yeah. And while the Heisman is not technically a quarterback award, if you're going to be quarterbacks at the top of the Heisman list, you need to have the yards to prove it.
Yes, you do.
Is just what I think does not need to be a hot take, but my biggest opinion right now is because they don't have nearly the yards that Gunnar has or that Reed has.
No.
Because they don't have to throw crazy things because they haven't played competitive games.
No.
Which, sorry, they're not. They might be really competitive teams, but their record does not show that.
No, it doesn't.
So when it comes to record and it comes to yards, I think the SEC beats out the Big Ten in every single way, shape, and form. And I also think that the SEC should be beating them out on the AP poll right now.
I tend to agree. Clearly, the AP poll voters don't agree with us, but,
We digress.
we're not the committee. But let's talk a little bit about Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I think
before we get too sidetracked.
Yeah, which we will. But so Texas has played Georgia 3 times in the last, I think, 13 months. Georgia has held Texas to 83 rushing yards throughout those 3 games.
Yeah. Like, we own Texas.
That we do.
And we now have beat them in our house, and their house, and our neutral site.
In the haunted Benz.
Yeah. And Gunner has beat them twice.
Yeah, he has.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We own Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Texas's offense, rushing, they average 124.1 per game. Georgia held them to 23 yards.
With 17 carries, mind you.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Wisner had actually 9 carries for 37 yards. 16 was his longest carry, but Manning had negative 17 rush yards. And that's terrible.
Mm-hmm. There's not a ton to say to that.
No.
I think that we expected Texas to come out a lot stronger than they did. I think we expected a little bit more from Manning because...
Yeah.
I'll say not a ton because historically this season he just hasn't looked great.
No, he really
just
hasn't.
kind of has looked mediocre, which kind of sucks for, the ridiculous standards that Texas holds their program to. But when it comes to things, really small things like footwork and mechanics and just the cleanliness of how he throws, the way he slings and he doesn't follow through, the way he squares off and he doesn't aim correctly. He looks like a boxer in the box.
He does.
His footwork makes such a big difference because it looks like he's wasting time.
It does.
And he has, granted, the line to protect him and allow him to do that, but it's little things like that that are putting him at such a deficit when, he doesn't need to be a block in his own road.
No.
But I think he's looked cleaner in the last week, game or two. The offense altogether looks like they're moving more fluidly. Looks like that they just have come together more and looked a lot more cohesive, I think is what I'm trying to get at the last week or two.
Yeah.
And that's just not the Texas that we played.
No. But, they did still have a few players who had good games. Wisner was 9 for 37, and then Wingo had 9 receptions for 62 yards. Moore had 5 receptions for 75. And Hill had that interception, and he read that ball the whole way. That was a terrible throw on Gunner's part, which he hasn't had many of those, but, what a play by that guy. He saw that one coming a mile away and he went and got it. And I don't know, they had some players that had pretty decent games, but I think it all does come down to Manning. And realistically, if he had any other last name on the back of that jersey, he would not be that bad of a quarterback.
And I don't think that the media and everybody at Texas would be ripping him off the same way that they do. In any way, shape, or form. And you're right, they did have some players with some really big games.
Yeah.
Wisner comes to mind because every single week, and if you're a Georgia fan, you don't like Wisner.
No, you don't like Wisner.
But he's always one of their big game players. Wingo has really stepped up. He's been one of their major playmakers this season.
I feel like I've seen him every week the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, they can do a lot with or without Manning, but I honestly hate to keep ripping on him because his name is Arch Manning. It sounds a lot... It sounds like I'm reprimanding him a lot more than I think I want to be. Yeah. I'm not trying to be overly critical of him because if I could be anybody in college football, he would be the last person I want to be.
Amen to that. But it's
just small things. It comes down to mechanics and basics and fundamentals and just things that I think he's in his own head about that he could fix really easily and I think would help him out tremendously.
I completely agree.
So, however they go to play the rest of the season is how they're going to play the rest of the season, but made for a really fun game at home.
Oh, absolutely.
The moral of the story.
And our third down defense was back. Texas was 2 for 12 on third down, which was refreshing.
Thank goodness.
Since joining the SEC, Texas has had 4 SEC losses, 3 of them to Georgia. Enough said.
What are you going to
do? So, I think we've covered everything from a Georgia perspective.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, kind of a slow weekend coming up. We've got USC versus Oregon, Pitt versus Georgia Tech, Tennessee versus Florida, and then Sanford at A&M is this weekend, which is very exciting.
So a big announcement to all of our listeners, in case you have not been paying attention the last couple of weeks when we mention it every single week.
Yeah.
But Hail Mary Hotline has had the very gracious opportunity to go to the Sanford, Texas A&M game and be guests of Coach Adam Cushing while we are there. So there will be a lot of content, a lot of show of the stadium, which is a huge bucket list to any longtime college football fans.
Absolutely.
And should be an incredible weekend. So huge episode coming next week, just to kind of recap what we do at A&M. Lots of videos while we're there.
Yes.
And I think, because you're the one that found it, I think, Taylor, you should come up with this great fun fact that we found about Sanford and A&M.
Thank you so much to Matt Mitchell's roll call for even putting this on my radar. But as you know, Sanford goes to Texas A&M this weekend. And for anyone who's been following college football for long enough knows that a few years ago, A&M made a questionable coaching choice in Jimbo Fisher. Largest buyout in college football history. What was it, $75 million?
Something like that.
It was 7-something. Jimbo Fisher was the quarterback at Sanford in 1987, and he set school records with 2,394 passing yards, 2,631 total offensive yards, and 34 touchdown passes.
Because, of course, Jimbo Fisher was the quarterback at Sanford in 1987.
Because, of course, he was. Why wouldn't he be? But yeah, thank you, Matt Mitchell, because he said something on roll call about that, and I looked at you and said, there's no way that's correct. It turns out it is.
And we spent 5 minutes fact-checking, because there's no way that Sanford and A&M would ever have such a crazy tie, but they do.
But they do. Also, shout out Bucky Ball, because Bucky is now at Texas A&M. Miss Bucky.
Yeah.
But anyway, fun fact of the day.
Mm-hmm.
The more you know. I would also like to point out, Sanford did fire our head coach a couple weeks ago. Hatcher actually gave Kirby Smart his first job, and I have seen a lot of rumors that Smart is going to hire Hatcher on at Georgia in some kind of offensive capacity.
I think that would be really interesting to see. And Kirby has some decent ties to Sanford. His parents met here, for one.
Yep.
His first job came from Hatcher. So, who knows?
Yeah.
I'd be open to it.
I would too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be kind of cool.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But as it goes for the rest of the best conference in college football, our little SEC rundown.
Yes.
Currently, A&M lives to see another week. They physically cannot go 8-4. So for any Aggie fans, please try and sleep at night. You are 10-0.
We are genuine Aggie fans until the end of the season.
Yes.
Like, please, for the love of God, beat Texas.
Because it's in Georgia's best interest.
Yes, it is.
But if you lose to Texas, I will not be an Aggie fan next season.
At the very least, you will go 11-1, but please go 12-0.
Yes.
Please. Anyway.
As they are still leading the season, 10-0, 7-0 in conference. And then, just because of head-to-head, Alabama, 8-2. Thank goodness. Georgia, 9-1. Ole Miss, 10-1. Oklahoma, 8-2, is now up for playoff contention.
Yes, they are.
So,
Which is not something I thought I would say. But as it stands right now, which we also spent a good while discussing yesterday, but
yeah.
if A&M wins out and Alabama wins out, then they would play each other in the SEC championship. If A&M loses to Texas and Bama beats Auburn, then Georgia would play Alabama in the SEC championship, because of course we would.
Yes.
But if A&M wins and Bama loses the Iron Bowl, then Georgia would play A&M in the SEC championship.
Yeah. So, ideal scenario, A&M has to beat Texas for this to work out.
Yes, it does.
Also, ideal scenario, Bama loses to Auburn and they're out of the playoffs. Because that's always best case scenario.
It's always best case scenario.
But as it stands right now, if the playoffs happen today, Georgia doesn't play Alabama unless Alabama finds a way to beat Ohio State in the semifinals. In the quarterfinals. So there's still so much up for grabs right now.
Yeah,
which is the fun part about playoffs coming out so many weeks in advance and being updated as often as they are. But then it's also scary stuff like this, where Georgia has to bypass the SEC championship.
That they do.
We just do.
We just have to.
Historically, we don't play well there. If Alabama is the one that we're playing, we're gonna lose.
It's wraps.
That's just it on the season.
Yep.
And we are so much better than the SEC championship.
Yeah.
So
What happens in the Benz does not define Georgia. It's just, the Benz is haunted.
Yeah.
Like top 3 most used phrases on this show, but it is.
Yeah, that's Georgia fans' daily affirmation is
Yeah.
the SEC championship does not define
us.
Georgia.
Yeah.
But ideally, if we have to go, I'd rather play A&M. I think that would be just such just a much more fun game.
We've only played A&M once since they've been in the SEC.
And we don't play them again until 27.
I know. A&M has never won the SEC championship.
First time for everything, A&M, so make sure that you're still going in 2 weeks.
Only if you beat Alabama. Don't
Only
beat us for the SEC championship.
Yes, of course. Because if we go, obviously,
Disclaimer.
all bets are off. I'm not an Aggies fan anymore. But
No.
I think it's important to point out these scenarios.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bridget. Oh, hey, Taylor and Sarah. Fun weekend of football, so I've heard.
It's a very fun weekend.
Scary weekend for you.
Very scary weekend. If you could see my family group chat, it was quite entertaining. I learned from my father and my brother that A&M almost lost to South Carolina. So I was kind of absent from keeping up with the football this weekend, but that's okay. Chad Biss and Brett Biss kept us updated. So it's all good. And we had a comeback, the biggest comeback in, what was it? Was
School
it
history.
School history? It was, yeah, school history since 2004, I think is what I saw earlier, which is wild. It's as old as us. Their comeback history is as old as us.
Well, 27 points is a really big deficit.
That is, yeah.
Y'all looking like Georgia.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah,
we
seriously.
came back.
Have an original thought.
Yeah.
I know, jeez. Gosh darn. Just stealing from the best, I guess.
That you are.
Right? See? I know where my clientele lies.
Yep.
Yes. Well, and there were some interesting things that happened from a Bridget's Bell standpoint from your game this weekend, as far as UGA goes. It's Harry Dog. Is that what you're? Yes, Harry Dog
Yes.
decided to get on the field and take a page out of Cosmo the Cougars book and dance with the UGA dance team out on the field. I mean, I'm still impressed. He's no Cosmo, but he'll get there.
I think the light up bracelets made a difference. I thought it was cool to see them all go
I
off
was
in the
gonna
stadium.
say, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Hey, it had something. That was some pretty cool jazz that Harry's got going on there. Keep it up, Harry. Keep on dancing. You'll get there. Anyway, also, Nintendo 3DS third down interception band cam at your game as well from one of the band people. Yeah. Anywho. Moving on. Pat McAfee, speaking of up north, went off against the Pittsburgh Pirates for not spending enough money.
Sell Pittsburgh.
Sell Pittsburgh.
This just made me laugh as a baseball fan because the Pirates need new ownership, something fierce, and the fact that at college game day for college football that sell the team broke out, just it makes me laugh.
Mm-hmm. Way to pull the NFL into college football.
Baseball, Bridget.
MLB.
MLB. I'm sorry. I don't. If you can't tell, I don't watch pro sports. I really don't care. I'm more of a college football, college sport kind of person. And then, finally, I mean, I guess this is probably my favorite of the weekend. A guy that began to drive a trash can at the UC Davis Montana State game. That is fantastic. I want to get a motorized trash can to drive around campus to contradict the scooters.
What's the point of the drivable trash can? What does it do?
It's cool. It's a drivable trash can.
You don't
Fair
have a
enough.
drivable trash can.
No, I want to know where he got it.
I was
That's the
gonna
point.
say, exactly. He's starting a trend. We just talked about innovators today in one of my classes. He is an innovator.
He is an innovator.
He is an innovator. He
Sharks.
is starting a trend. Sharks. I have a proposition. With that being said, purchase a drivable or a motorized garbage can, whatever you want to say it. Go for it. Do it. Live your best life and drive a trash can across the state. I don't know, wherever you're going. Do a cross-country road trip
In
in
a
your
trash
garbage
can.
can. I think that's fantastic. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Well, this is your host, Bridget.
This is your host, Taylor.
This is your host, Sarah.
Go dogs!
Giggle Maggies.